Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. All right. We already have brokerage owners here today. Thank you and welcome. Go ahead and introduce yourselves and let us know where you're joining us from today. Today, we're going to be talking about Blue Ocean Strategy, Chapter 4, Session 4, and our topic is focus on the big picture, not the numbers. And we'll find out why that's so important. Okay, we have Janice. Good afternoon, Janice. Hello. And Shakita from Tennessee. Welcome. The second book we'll be taking a look at very briefly is this book, The Startup Owner's Manual from Steve Blank and Bob Dorff. One of my favorite business books. You can see it's a very thick, big book. And it all boils down to one simple concept that we'll learn about today. So welcome. Who's ready to get started? Let's get our slides going here. And the handout will be available after. So welcome everybody to Be the Boss and Dominate Your Market. Today is the fourth of 8 sessions on real estate brokerages that innovate, differentiate, and capture unique market share with Blue Ocean Strategy success. We've been learning about how to innovate our brokerage business models, and today we're going to continue that discussion. So welcome to your future, everybody. Our quote for today is from Albert Einstein, one of my favorite thought leaders, definitely of last century and this one as well. He said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Why is that? Because knowledge just tells us what to do, but imagination is what we can dream of that has never been done before. So if we have the imagination, then we can get the knowledge. But knowledge alone isn't the most important thing. So hopefully that quote will take you through this week, starting to think about imagination, thinking outside the box, and breaking down those barriers for a red ocean strategy, sailing your boat away into the blue ocean. Today's topic is about focusing on the big picture. Again, we're at 4 of 8 sessions today. So we're going to be halfway through when we finish today. And you know all about me already and my certificate of completion from Blue Ocean Academy. Our topics for today will start out with the 4 steps of visualizing strategy. That is how a company works together to hammer out all of these points to figure out what they need to do to get to the next level. And then we'll also be talking about what happens at the corporate level, the PMS map, which stands for Pioneer, Migrator, and Settler, overcoming the limitations that are inherent in strategic planning and the strategy canvas. And last is get out of the office. That's from the Startup Owner's Manual book. Today, we're going to focus on the big picture, not the number crunching. Why is this so important? Well, every week we talk about how important the numbers are. That's part of a business strategy. You create your business model and it revolves around your return on investment, your profitability. We talk about consulting, and our goal is to maximize profit. And the goal of any business is to earn a profit. Pay yourself first and then have the business earn a profit. And it's all about number crunching. It's about metrics. It's about measuring. It's about benchmarks. It's about achieving goals that are set with numbers. But today we're going to ignore all the numbers and just focus on the big picture, and we'll find out why. When you paint the picture, it gives people a starting place. When you focus on the numbers and the number crunching, basically what you're doing is you're copying your competitors. And that's what we all do when we do strategic planning is first we look at, well, where's the market at? Where are our competitors at? And we might even draw a little map and say, okay, here's where we are. Here's where our competitors are. We'll be doing that in the strategic process when we draw our strategy canvas. But more importantly than that, what is the big picture that the competitors don't see? Hopefully they don't see it and you do. So that's why they are not focused on the big picture. They're focused on who's on their right, who's on their left, and battling it out with competitors. And that's why everybody's getting bloody in the red ocean. And instead, we want to take that to a different level, not focus on our competitors, not focus on the numbers. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing, but be the artist, paint the picture, and create something that's big, exciting, and a vision that everybody can get behind. And once the picture is done, then you go back and you see how can we make the numbers work to fit into this excellent vision that we've created. And maybe if we can't make the numbers work for that vision of where we need to be, then maybe we need to create a different vision, paint a different picture. So the strategy canvas, that is really at the core of the Blue Ocean strategy. And we talked about that last week and the week before, and we introduced it in the first week. But drawing a strategy canvas for your company is very, very critical. Now, we've had worksheets every week, and hopefully you have been drawing a strategy canvas, but we don't need just one because as real estate brokerage owners, we actually have several different sets of clients, the first being our agents. So I would encourage you to take the time, draw a strategy canvas for your real estate agents of the services you offer, the services your competitors offer, and that is the starting point of how to change that. Also draw a strategy canvas for your customers, your buyers and your sellers. I think each need a different one. Investors need a different one. Your corporate level accounts, those need a different strategy canvas as well. A strategy canvas helps you to visualize the company's current strategic position in its marketplace. Many of us, we just get up, we go to our offices, and we do the same thing we did the day before without any real thought of how we're positioned in the marketplace. We look at what the person or the brokerage to our right is doing and the brokerage to our left, and we try to beat them and do better than them, win more clients, steal their agents, or should I say, borrow their agents. But we really don't take time to think about the big picture. And that's what we're going to do today is take a step back and look at the big picture. What is your position in the marketplace? And how can you begin charting your future strategy to pull away from competitors to the point where competitors are irrelevant? They don't even matter, right? That's the title of our book here, How to Create Uncontested Market Space and Make the Competition Irrelevant. So today we're not going to focus on the operational details that I've been saying are so important. And you know from my brokerage empire courses, operation is everything. Systems, processes, procedures, and how important that is to get all of those in place. But today we're going to step away from that and we're going to first paint the big picture. And once we get the big picture painted, then we'll go back and look at the details and how they fit into the big picture. So who's ready to get started with me? Oh, hi, Donna. Donna is saying hello to everybody. So what are our goals in drawing the strategy canvas? Well, first of all, it's a strategic profile of an industry. It should clearly depict each of the factors that the businesses invest in. In other words, where do they put their time, their effort, their capital? Those are the factors that the industry is competing on. Now, whether or not customers or clients actually value that, at this point, it doesn't matter. At this point, we just want to know, where is the industry and where do we fit? How does it affect the competition among the industry players if we're all competing on the same factors? The second goal in creating a strategy canvas is that it shows a strategic profile of your current and potential competitors. So in other words, you're going to identify which factors that your competitors are investing in and which factors you as a brokerage are investing in. One example might be lead generation. Perhaps lead generation is the name of the game in your area, and all the big brokerages are doing that, and you feel you're forced to do that as well. So that would be one of the strategic profile factors in the industry. And thirdly, the goal of a strategy canvas is to show the company's strategic profile, also known as its value curve. It depicts how it invests in the competitive factors, and then you can sort of take that curve all the way through the future and determine what might happen in different future scenarios and how the investments might play out in the long term of their business health. So we're going to go back to the strategy canvas again to visualize your company, how to draw the strategy canvas. This is just a refresher that we've gone over. So this is a very, very simple strategy canvas for a management company. Put my little whiteboard up here. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my little whiteboard here. You can see that we have two different curves. The first one at the top starts out as red, and it's at the top, and then it sort of dips down, and okay, so here's the top red, and then you can see it dips down, and then this is more of the red. Those are your industry competitors. This company, after they recreated a new strategy canvas, they came up with their blue ocean business model that is actually the opposite of what the competitors are doing. And this company, they found 4 different types of factors. And these are factors that are high in the, in their offering, average, and low. So they found factors that they felt could be eliminated because customers did not value these factors. And yet every competitor offered it without truly understanding what the customers want. They found factors that could be reduced. They found factors that could be raised, and then they found new factors that could be created that nobody in the industry was currently offering. So that's our ERRC, right? E is eliminate, R is reduce, R is raise, and C is create. So that's the ERRC grid, which we'll see again later today. And here's an example of a real estate strategy canvas. Just as an example, I just drew one of my brokerage. And here's the red curve of DIY sellers, whether they're FSBOs or they're a company that helps the sellers be a FSBO. And on the top of the chart, we have luxury sellers. And then we have my brokerage, which is right in the middle. So if my brokerage is right in the middle, sandwiched between 2 red ocean companies, what does that tell you? Well, it probably tells you that my company is also a red ocean. This company offers high, this company offers low, and I'm right in the middle. So what does that tell you? I'm probably not doing anything different than my competitors. As a matter of fact, this line that I've drawn, my black line, is about the average of all my competitors in the area. That means I am swimming in this red ocean. My boat is being hit by cannons from either side with this red ocean of competitors, and we haven't broken out of this strategy of doing what everybody else is doing yet. And that's the starting point for each of us as brokerage owners, is to first chart our canvas of where we are, because we can't get to where we want to be in the future unless we know where we are currently right now. Now let's talk about chapter 4 in this book. It is about 4 steps of visualizing your strategy. Let's go into those 4 steps. Take a little dive here. So the 4 steps are: number 1, visual awakening; number 2, visual exploration; number 3, visual strategy fair; and number 4, visual communication. Now, do you see something that they all have in common? Go ahead and type into the chat what you see they all have in common. Yes, they all have the word visual. Visual goes back to what we said at the very beginning. Visual is the big picture. Visual is painting the picture. It's the vision. So it's something that we see with our eyes, or as we said last week with Helen Keller, we see that with our minds. And when we're painting this picture and we're going through these 4 steps, it is a very visual process. There will be lots of drawings. There will be strategy canvases. There'll be lots of illustrations drawn by the team doing the research. And that's a really important factor, is that in this section, we're getting away from the number crunching. The visual awakening helps us, which is the first step, helps us compare our business with that of our competitors. As I just mentioned, you draw your strategy canvas as it currently is now, and the factors that you compete on currently in your market, which is probably all red ocean, and that's okay if you're right there with all the other brokerage owners. Then you take some time to think about how your strategy needs to change. In the example I gave earlier of the brokerage owner, which was my brokerage, and how we really are a red ocean because we're pretty much doing what the industry average is doing. Now we know we have to change. But where do we start? What do we change? How do we even know what's available to change? It would just seem like we're stuck. And that's where the imagination comes in. As we said at the beginning, imagination is more important than knowledge. And imagination allows us to dream of things that don't currently exist. In other words, instead of just seeing everything as it is, to see things that haven't ever been before. And that's the beauty of the Blue Ocean Strategy System. It's a process that takes us through that creation cycle. So the strategy canvas of corporate foreign exchange, and this is just a sample company, you can see that what they did is they got their team together and they went through this process. All of their managers, their top level executives, their teams who were out in the field, it was very difficult for them to come together. The reason is because they did not agree on their factors. And they also felt like there was a disconnect between the managerial staff and the workers out in the field. So there was some internal conflict, and they really had to work together to come up with this strategy canvas. But after, I think it was about 6 weeks, it took them to actually go through this. And then they came together in a room, which we're going to go through how to do that with a visual fair, and finally agreed on these are the factors that our industry competes on. Number 2 is visual exploration. With this step, our goal is to get out into the field and explore the 6 paths to creating the blue oceans. Now, you remember the 6 paths we discussed in the last session. Get out there with a notepad and pen, observe the distinct advantages of alternative products and services. This will help you determine which of those factors that you're currently competing on should you eliminate, should you create, or should you change. The visual exploration is very, very important because it involves us doing what? Getting out of the office, going and talking to our customers. Right, here's the book, The Startup Owner's Manual. Hopefully you can see that there. And again, this whole book is all about getting out of the office, talking to the people, researching them, surveying them, observing them, taking notes, finding out what needs to change based on their feedback. The bottom line is never outsource your eyes. What does that mean? There are many things in a company to outsource, but you don't want to have somebody else try to be your eyes and ears. That is one of the most important things that you can do as a business owner. Your eyes, it means basically your ability to see what's going on in the marketplace. And you are the only one, not necessarily you, but I should say you and your leadership team and your staff, of course, your agents, you are the only ones that should be doing that. That is one of the few things that cannot be outsourced, is being the eyes and ears, right? Having your ear to the ground, finding out what's going on in the industry and being on that leading edge. Talk to your customers. Now, again, we said customers are who? Your real estate agents. Those are your primary customers. Your buyers and sellers, secondary customers. And then if you're looking at the whole revenue grid, the revenue mix, you have, your buyers and sellers, which are your consumer base. You have your investor base, and then you have your corporate base. Get out there and talk to your customers. Send managers into the field, interview, observe them, research new avenues, things that had never been thought of before. Interview end users of competitors and look at other ancillary products. Don't just look at real estate industry. Oh, again, that is the basis of the Startup Owner's Manual. Get out of the office and talk to customers, right? It's important to interview them because you find out firsthand what's important to the customers. And more importantly, if you're a good question asker, you find out what they didn't realize they thought was important to them, needs and wants they have that they couldn't even express or didn't realize they had or didn't understand that your business can do part of that. Now, how do we apply that to brokerage owners? All right, let's go back here. I'm going to draw a little whiteboard here. And okay, it's pretty much white here. So I have a little map that I'm going to draw here. And right here we have the beginning. We'll call it the beginning. And then over here we'll put an E for end. So we're going to look at a person, an adult housing journey throughout their lifetime, right? From the beginning to the end. And the end we'll say could be either death, or when they no longer need their own house. For example, they go into an assisted living program. At that point, the housing industry is no longer part of their, life cycle. So this is the entire life cycle, we'll call it. Life cycle. And again, we're looking at consumers. Sorry, my handwriting is not that great on this little whiteboard. And again, we're looking at consumers, buyers, and sellers. And this life cycle could be done on most anything, but this is just an example we're going to start with today. So at the beginning, say a person turns 18. And, okay, 18th birthday, woohoo! I graduated from high school. I'm on my own. Now what do? I'm going to college. So we'll say that this young man goes to college and lives in the dorms. And in the dorms is probably not housing that we have an effect on, but we could if we're thinking outside of the box. But currently our industry does not address that college students living in dorms, and then move out of the dorms and move into rental housing with your roommates. Okay, so roommates. Is that an area currently we cover in our industry of buying and selling real estate? Probably not too much unless we're selling to an investor, but nobody's really focused on our end user here. And last week we did talk about the users, right, versus the participants versus the influencers. And this is an area where that could come in. Next, we graduate from college. Woohoo! Now we're going to rent a house. We got a job. Okay, that says rent. All right, rent a house. And, then we get married. And then we want to buy a house. So this is where the buying process comes in. And now enter that real estate agent. And this is really the first place where we have contact with this adult who has gone through various phases of their housing, right, over their adulthood. And this is the first time that we actually have contact with them when we believe they're ready to buy, because that's what we believe our business is helping buyers and sellers. And we have neglected to understand that our business is not about buyers and sellers. It's about housing for the end consumer. Okay, that's housing. So this young married couple, they buy a house, and later on they have children. They want to buy a bigger house. So at this point, they're going to sell, and then they will also buy again. And we represent them, at each of these phases. But in between the buy and sell, what is there? Well, this is home ownership. And during this phase when they own, we generally have no contact with them, even if they were our clients when they bought and sold. So that's a huge piece of the market that we're missing of the end user housing. Now, what happens after they buy and sell? Maybe they're going to relocate, so they need to sell again. Or let's say, where's my little eraser? Okay, let's say they don't sell. Let's say they decide to hang on to their house as investment property in their first location, and then go ahead and buy somewhere else. Okay, so at that point, they become a customer again. And we may have even missed this opportunity where they become an investor and they rent out their original house. We miss that opportunity, right, if we don't have a property management business. They buy another house. Eventually, sadly, they might get divorced, and then they might have to sell. And then they might downsize and go into a retirement home or maybe a retirement community. Boy, that's some. Okay. If you can read my chicken scratch there, right? The retirement community. And along these points, they may also help their children buy, right? So they're being an influencer on housing for others, help others to buy. And along the line, they're also referring their friends to you because they think you're so great, right? Okay, I know this is not the best handwriting. I should probably just use a little typing tool over there. So what has happened is this one person has gone through their entire phase of their adult life in housing, and maybe this person, after they're 18, they live 60 more years. And in those 60 years, because we believe that we're transactional based, we really weren't there for all 60 years. We were there at a point when they wanted to buy and a point when they wanted to sell. And we were there for transactions, and we didn't encompass the whole housing life cycle. And now I hope this is making some sense to everybody. And this is not a solution. This is not an answer. This is not necessarily for your brokerage. This is just brainstorming on how our industry currently operates and how it operates counterintuitively to the life cycle housing needs of consumers. And if we can capture more points along that line or capture the whole length of that line, wouldn't we be doing better to be able to think of different solutions and see our company as maybe a housing company and not just a buy and sell transactional company? Okay, I hope this is helping everybody to think outside the box. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next slide here, which is having a visual strategy fair. In a visual strategy fair, what you would do is you would divide your company into teams. Each of the teams would do the research with customers, get insights, get observations from the field, get feedback. The feedback would be from customers, competitors' customers, and non-customers, not just your existing customers, because again, you're trying to expand your base and you don't want to deal with just existing customers, but you want to think of who is not a customer that could be a customer. And we just showed you an example of that in the little whiteboard drawing that I had. And then these teams are going to use feedback to build the best to-be future strategy. To-be means what could happen in the future that's not currently happening right now. And then what happens is these teams converge. They come together. They each bring their feedback, their observations, their interview, their research, and they have their own value curve. And now I know you're probably thinking, well, I'm a small company. I don't even know if we could, have teams to do that. And that's fine. Work with what you have. Maybe individuals can each do that on their own, or you can have, a set of 2 people here and a set of 2 people here. So at least you have 2 teams and you're bringing in completely different sets of ideas. And you can see where your ideas align or where one team thought of something the other team didn't think of. And so each person should have the ability to judge these strategies that are brought in and determine whose is most likely accurate and which of those strategies project a good future direction for the company. Now, the example company that we were showing earlier today, which was called, I think we called it foreign exchange or something, corporate foreign exchange company. And what they did is they actually had a lot of people out in the field who went out and talked to customers, brought their research back, and they actually had 12 teams. So their company was quite big. They were able to have that luxury of having many teams, which could be overwhelming, but what they did is they had each team put their value curve on the wall, and then everybody was given some sticky notes, and they went and put their sticky notes on the value curves and the strategy canvas that they thought was the most successful and made notes on it. And then all that feedback was pulled together, and each of their judgments were looked at, and they finally did come together, and they came together and actually created two separate strategy canvases, which again, I encourage you to do more than one. They did one for their offline trading company and one for the online services, and they were completely different, and they found out a lot of really good information that they collected about the company that they wouldn't have otherwise found out. And then what they did is they took their before and they created a whole new value curve. Now, this took them a couple of weeks to hammer out all of these new things that they did. So I'll just use my little whiteboard here. And okay, let's see. So here is their current offerings. That was the red ocean right here. And it copied or mimicked pretty much what their competitors did. But after they did a lot of research, they found out that these particular factors down here were not as important to customers, or that the customers, in this case with the price, didn't want to pay that much. And so they lowered all of these factors, including the price. On the other hand, they found out that customers were really frustrated about certain things that the company didn't realize were important to the customers. And those are what they raised or they created. And in this case, there's two blue dots here where there were no red dots. See, they didn't exist before. And so they created something brand new that had never been existed in the industry before, which is where customers could confirm their own appointments and track their own progress. And that was innovative on their part to start with that. So these strategy canvas drawings are actually in the book here. I didn't make them up. This is the Blue Ocean Strategy book. I'm pulling this from page 86, and 87 is their offline and online. And then if you go to page 92, that's their before and after curve. And what you want to do as a brokerage owner is you want to look at your company before and then draw a new strategy curve, and what does it look like after. Okay? We'll get rid of that. And again, this is the guide that they use for their strategy canvas. It's called the ERRC, which stands for Eliminate, Reduce, Raise, and Create. And this is the grid that we discussed in week number 1 and 2, I believe. So what factors did they eliminate in their industry? Well, they eliminated relationship management because there was a middle manager involved in the process. This is what everybody did in the industry. We just assume it's the way to do things, but the customers didn't like it, didn't care about it. And why put another middleman in there when the customers didn't care, and it actually made their services more bulky? And there were certain things that they reduced. The account executives and the corporate dealers, these are things that the customers didn't need to pay for, so why have them? They reduced their importance. And then they raised certain factors. They made their system easier for consumers to use. They made it more secure, more accurate, quicker, and provide some additional assistance for them with the online help. And then they created, as we mentioned, 2 new features or functions that had not existed in the industry before. And what this did is this flipped the grid. This made them go from being competing in the red ocean with all the other competitors to doing something new, unique, innovative that nobody had done before. And not only that, but now they've skyrocketed themselves above their competitors by creating something new. Now they are sailing away into the blue ocean. They're breaking free from all those competitors and sailing away into the blue ocean. And also think about how you can do something like this in the real estate industry. I hope this has gotten you thinking a little bit about what consumers want and what they don't want in the real estate industry. Okay. We'll go over that more towards the end again. Number 4 is visual communication. Visual communication is taking these strategy canvases, making them one page, easy to use, look at your profile, and distributing these internally to people who are your key implementers, your decision makers, and all your staff that you need their support and you need them to rally behind it. Your agents, right? Those are people that you really want them to share your vision and come on board with it. What this does, it allows you to show them how you can support only projects and operational moves and not spin your wheels doing all these other things. It allows your company to close the gaps and to actualize the new strategy. In other words, moving from the old strategy to your new strategy. And how do you do that seamlessly with everyone's buy-in and support, of course, because you don't want them to sabotage your success just because it's change, it's new, it's different, and people often have a difficult time adapting to things that are changing. So at the corporate level, that is one of the obstacles that we see, is that sometimes people don't get behind the vision. And how do you get everybody behind the vision? Okay, so an example of Samsung Electronics, they had institutionalized the use of the strategy canvas in its key business creation decisions, and they actually established something they call in their VIP Center. It stands for Value Innovation Program. And so they work on this on a regular basis. So their internal decision makers and staff are supportive because they know this is part of how their business operates. And it's not a surprise for them because they're prepared, and this is part of their value, their core values and their mission and objectives is to continue innovating, and they're not caught off guard when the company wants to innovate because it's part of progress and they understand it. And that's what they've bought into with the corporate level, right? Okay, so for the strategy canvas for real estate, we'll have this on the activity worksheet, is make sure that you have your strategy canvas, again, agents, buyers, sellers, investors, and your corporate level accounts. Each corporate level account may have a different strategy canvas, or you may think of something that hasn't been thought of before, which hopefully we're all doing, right? We're using our imagination today. We're putting down the calculators and thinking of what could be instead of what currently is. Now, one of the last things I'm going to show you is called a Pioneer Migrator settler map. And those of us who are familiar with business startups and innovation, entrepreneurship are probably already familiar with a map like this. Turn on my little whiteboard here. So there are 3 phases of a business. And the business are those who are pioneers, migrators, and settlers. And this is what it looks like today. You can see, for example, in an innovative area, there might be no pioneers or maybe one company breaking in as a pioneer. But there are migrators, people who are moving up to do something innovative and become a pioneer. And then there are settlers, those who are happy where they're at, but eventually they're going to have to move too because the industry is changing. So what happens is in the future, we'll call this tomorrow, everybody moves up a notch, right? They move up, and those who were migrators are now moving up to become pioneers in the industry. Those who were settlers have now moved up to become migrators, and then there will be different and new settlers coming in. And what does this tell you about a business portfolio? This tells you that you can't always stay the same because the industry is moving forward. And people who you might see, not people, but your competitors whom you may see right now and think they're not a threat, tomorrow they could be over here and they could be a threat, right? And those who are settlers and maybe not doing well, they could suddenly change their philosophy, change their business model, and they see what all the competitors are doing. They know they need to make a shift in the market, and they could change and become migrators. So don't settle for what currently is, but look in the future to not just where the market's going to be and where your company will be, but also where your competitors will be in the future. And I think this PMS map is something that's really important to understand. This is sort of a little exercise that you can go through. You can actually, I'm going to clear this off, but you could actually go through and identify each of your competitors, whether your competitors are local companies, mom and pop shops, boutique brokerages, networks, large national companies, if they're franchises, if they are players who are looking to break in. We know we have some third-party websites out there that are pondering various ways to get into the real estate business. We have the iBuyers out there, and then we have those that we don't know yet. For example, Amazon. Well, they get into the business of buying and selling real estate or helping clients with their housing needs. So it's important to look at the whole canvas and understand where the competitors are today and where they will be tomorrow, and will you be left behind? Lastly, we're going to focus on overcoming limitations of strategic planning. And those limitations could be your own company, or they could be company coming from inside your company, or they could be coming from your customers, your customer base, right? So your team or your base, either of those could be. It's all about the collective wisdom in going through this process. In other words, it's conversational. How many people can you bring into the conversation and pick their brain, understand their motives, and know what their needs and wants are? Again, it's not document driven by paperwork. In this process, you're building the big picture. You're not number crunching, and there's a very strong creative component to this where it's not just analysis driven. Again, going back to Albert Einstein at the beginning, what did he say? It's about imagination. It's about creating something that has never existed before. And that takes time to step back and work on the business, not in the business. It's about building the process around a picture. Not a picture on a wall, of course, like here we see here, but about a big vision of what we see for the future. Again, be sure to keep going through this book. I know many of you already have it, the Blue Ocean Strategy book. It says nothing about your real estate business, which is good because you don't want to be tainted by what the current industry is. You want to think of something new and fresh outside the box. And the second book that we're looking at here is the Startup Owner's Manual. And the one concept in this big, huge, giant book, which I've read much of it, and it's excellent, excellent, excellent. The whole concept is get out of the office and talk to customers. When you're starting a company or you're renovating a company, creating from the ground up, don't just do the same old thing that you've always done, sit behind the desk and crunch numbers and create something and, invent something. Get out of the office and find out what people want. That is going to be your biggest takeaway from the book, is doing your market research. Because in the end, there will be some hidden icebergs lurking below the surface. The water looks calm and cool when we're sailing our boat, and all of a sudden, there's icebergs below the surface. There are competitors who suddenly appear shooting their cannons, turning that blue ocean red and bloody, and the sharks circling below just waiting for your boat to collapse so they can have some lunch. Again, blue ocean is important. You have to sail out there, which means getting out of your comfort zone, getting away from competitors, not worrying about what everybody else is doing, but just know through this innovation process that when you are onto a great idea, what's going to happen next? Well, what's going to happen next is everybody's going to see your success and they're going to try to copy it. So you're not going to stay blue ocean forever. You're going to have to keep innovating and continue creating something new. Our summary today was about the 4 steps of visualizing strategy, looking at the big picture, looking at the corporate level. We explored the pioneer, migrator, settler map and how business evolves and how competitors move over time, and the limitations that could be part of this process, and more importantly, getting out of the office and talking to customers and clients. So be sure to take a look at the books, read, listen. If you're like me, I like to get the hard copy of the book and then listen to it on Audible as well as I have my hard copy. That way I can underline and use my yellow highlighter and all of those great things in the books. So any questions today? We actually do have a few minutes for questions, and we'd like to find out if anybody has any, not just questions, but how do you see this working in your brokerage? Do you see ways that you can innovate? And then going back to the life cycle of housing of adults, what do you see there that you can improve your business in that you're not currently doing? So we'll take a moment and just see what everybody has to say. Okay, go ahead and type into your chat there and let us know how you plan to implement a blue ocean strategy, how you plan to start the process of innovation in your brokerage. Usually it's going to start by involving some other people in the process because it's really hard to be creative all on our own. Okay, Janice says, execution of new strategies is my biggest challenge. Well, definitely, I agree with you on that. I think that's one of my biggest challenges as well. And sometimes it comes down to accountability. It comes down to it's easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. And if there's no system in place to hold us accountable, if there are no deadlines, if there's nobody checking on us, if we don't have a consultant or a coach or a business partner, or maybe even, our friends holding our feet to the fire, sometimes it's hard to get started or continue the process and finish. So definitely thank you, Janice, for sharing that. Anybody else? Okay, for today's offer, we do have our Goal Achiever Daily Planners, which I would encourage you to think about getting a set of at least 15 of these for your agents. Speaking of Blue Ocean strategy, this is something that you can do that nobody else is doing. None of your competitors have their own planner with their name, their logo, their brand, their colors on it, specifically designed for their agents. And how loyal does that make your agents feel? This could be part of your welcome package for your newbie agents who come on. This could be something that you give to agents when you're interviewing them in the process. Okay, Janice, thank you for your feedback. You said you're moving in another direction in the middle of working in my business. Every day is hard. I totally agree, because I have that same obstacle of carving out time from working in my business to work on my business. And I have to actually put it in my calendar and schedule it, because otherwise it won't happen, because there are so many things that come up every day with working in my business. Yes, exactly. And it all comes down to allocating our time. And then when we see we have so much on our plate, what do? Those three things: outsource, delegate, automate. What can you delegate to someone else? What can you put on automatic pilot, create a process with the system? And what can you outsource? So definitely, I'm right there with you. Lastly, we do have another offer, and that is from our mastermind class, our master class, our 12-course bundle. It is normally $590. Today it's half price, $295, special rate for brokerage owners. We're going to show you 12 steps. Each is an hour-long video, plus we have additional tools. We have additional worksheets, bonus content, resources, and we're adding video interviews, 20 to 30-minute interviews with industry experts. We're calling it our Legacy Leader series, and those are being added in. Very, very exciting to bring you more value to be able to take your business to the next level. Again, we do offer consultations for brokerage owners, aspiring brokers. We help you discover new markets, be innovative, and drive profits to the max. This is our series that will be coming up later this year. I'm going to show you how to rev up your business and push that needle. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Here's my contact information, and I think most of you know how to reach out to me. I also have a calendar, so if you like to make an appointment, I'll send you my calendar link. You can go ahead and make an appointment online. With that being said, thank you very much for joining us, everybody, for the 4th of 8 sessions of Be the Boss, Dominate Your Market, real estate brokerages that innovate, differentiate, and capture unique market share. And we showed you this awesome system today. I hope you're able to take advantage of this information to work on your business, set some time aside, and really just knock it out of the park by doing something that is needed and wanted in your community, and nobody else has capitalized on that opportunity yet. So with that, we're going to say goodbye. to everybody. Thank you for joining us, real estate brokerage owners. And our time is up. And join us again for next week for session 5. Again, from Blue Ocean Strategy, we'll be going over chapter 5. So if you want to read it in advance and be prepared, and we'll show you how to apply that to your brokerage business. All right, thank you. Okay, Donna says, thank you, Regina. Great as always. Thank you, Donna. Shukita says, thank you. Okay, you're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll catch you again on the next session. Bye.